Welcome to the Heartland Running Podcast. Join Crystal, Andy, and Steven as they explore all things running related in the Heartland and beyond.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Heartland Running Podcast. I'm Crystal.
I'm Andy.
And we are your very intelligent, literary running hosts.
Very nice.
Yes. Well, I'm starting off with that because Steven's not here tonight. He's on special assignment. And so we're going to class it up a little bit tonight. And I'm going to start off the night. I found a little bit of poetry that I think reflects how all of us have been running the past few weeks. And so I wanted to share it with you. And I think you may be familiar with this author, Andy. So, of course, nobody else can see this because it's podcast, but Andy's on Skype with me, so he can see what my book is. So
one of my favorite authors of all time.
Yes.
Literary genius.
Genius. So just a short passage from here. So from there to here, from here to there, funny things are everywhere. Here are some who like to run. They run for fun in the hot, hot sun. And that, of course, comes from the one and only Dr. Seuss and One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish. Because it has been freaking hot here. How so? It's got to be worse for you, though, Andy.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's pretty hot around here. I just got back from a tempo run this evening, and so just like 45 minutes ago, so I'm still sweating. You guys can probably smell me through Skype. And so I'm going to try to be just as coherent as I can, but I'm a pretty tired dude right now.
We can see the little stink lines coming off like Pigpen or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited. We have a returning guest with a new guest. Previously, we had Superman Harvey Lewis on with us, and I believe he was on with episode 25. So if anyone's missed that, you definitely want to go back and give that a listen. So that was from earlier in the springtime. And so over the summer, since he's been with us, he's competed in his fourth 24-hour World Championship representing Team USA. He had a dramatic podium finish at Badwater 135, and he's visited a few countries along the way as well. And then new with us, we have WonderWoman, who is his fiancee, Kelly Odell. Kelly's really interesting. She didn't start running until she was in her 30s. And since then, she's gone on to run multiple marathons and ultras, which is really funny because she's only 31 now. So I'm not sure how that works. She has been a pacer for the Flying Pig Marathon, as well as other races for over the past several years. She coaches track, cross country, gymnastics, and this is all while balancing the demands of family, work, and school. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Crystal. And
we're so glad that you're back.
And Andy.
Yes.
Yeah, Andy's here too. Oh. Yes.
Yeah, but I just gotta say thank you to both of you.
So now when
Crystal, one quick thing that I'll have to correct you on is my age. I'm 39. So when you said that, I was like 31. Gee, that is a lot to accomplish in just like 12 months. But no, I've been at it for about 9 years now.
Well, Harvey told me you were 21 or 29, so I was trying to figure out how you did all that before you even turned 30. So
No, you should seriously own the 31. I mean, you should seriously own that.
Yeah.
Well, Kelly's probably too much. She won't tell you that apparently today in class, the students, somehow it came out that she was 39 and none of the kids believed it.
Oh.
They all thought that she was they couldn't believe that she was 30.
Which is pretty good because the kids always think that, even if you're 20, they think you're 100. So that's a huge compliment.
Right. True.
And 31, or 39, I'm 39 myself. And so, most people who are 39, they're really depressed because, they've got that 40th birthday that's coming up. And then there's me. Yeah. I'm like, I cannot wait to turn 40. I can get out of that age group. I get a new age group, and it's going to be so much fun.
I know.
For Chicago coming up for me.
Yeah, and I've even went as far to look at other races, the age group 40 to, 40 to 49 or 40 to 44, just so I can see, hey, what's that age group running? What am I going to be doing? I'm counting down the days so I turn 40.
See what they're doing.
Great.
And so I'm going to go ahead and tell this story. I've never told it before, and that's totally way off topic. But, since Steven's not here, we can do whatever we want to here. But I was running the Bass Pro Marathon, and there were some older fellows that I kind of, came up on, and we were running along. I think it was about mile 10 or 12 or something like that. We were still feeling good and having good conversation. And I was saying, it's like, I'm so excited to turn 40 because I get a new age group. And so these older guys, they were probably in their 50s. They just turned and looked at me and they said, no, 40 age group, that's not that great. I'm like, well, how come? It's like, well, that's all those newly divorced guys that, they're out there getting super fit, looking for new wives. And so those guys get really fast. So, don't think that it's going to be easy whenever you get into that new age group. So anyway, I'm excited to get into it, but still in the same sense, it's like, I got a little trepidation there that I there's still some competition out there in that age group.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't tell your wife that story, by the way.
No, absolutely. She doesn't listen to the podcast. Actually, she does. And so I'm going to get in trouble here in a few weeks.
Are you tired of muscle cramps, running out of energy, and the dreaded gut bomb during an endurance event? That's why Sword created Sword Endurance Drink Mix. Clean, sustainable sports fuel for hour after hour of strenuous activity. With only 6 natural ingredients, it has everything your body needs and nothing it doesn't. So give Sword a try today. Head over to drinksword.com and use the discount code Heartland Runner at checkout to save 20% off your purchase.
Well, then that kind of brings us to a good story then, because we heard how you guys got engaged, the dramatic engagement story at Badwater, but we never did hear. How did you guys meet?
We were actually running. You want to tell it, honey?
Okay,
we were running the 24-hour race. Okay, go ahead.
We were running North Coast 24-hour race in 2013, and I like to tell this story because there's a part of it that he never knew about. And when we got there, my friend Amanda, she said, Harvey Lewis is running this race. And I looked at her and I said, who's Harvey Lewis? So it's kind of funny because sometimes when I post things, on Facebook or Instagram with a picture of me and Harvey, sometimes I will hashtag who is Harvey Lewis. So when we got to the race and she's talking about it, and she said, he was the first American to finish at Badwater this year. And I said, yeah, I think I might have heard that name a couple times, once or twice. And then as we were running, North Coast is on a 1-mile loop. So my friend was, pretty excited to point him out, like, hey, there he is. And I'm like, yeah, there he is. And there he goes. So after getting lapped, constantly over 24 hours by Harvey, he started talking to me and chatting a little bit. And then, at the end of the race, he asked for my number. So I thought, I look the worst that I probably could ever look after a 24-hour race. I smell as bad as I could probably ever smell. And he's asking for my number. So he must see something.
Oh, that's awesome.
Something there. So yeah, that's kind of how it all happened. Is that how it was from your perspective, Harvey?
Well, yeah, she definitely caught my attention. Every time I would come around, I would slow down when I got to her and run with her for maybe like about 100 meters or so on each lap, and it seemed unfair because there was another guy like seemed to be interested in her well, and he got to run with her like most of the race. so I was like, this isn't very fair. I'm trying to run the race. And one lap I actually ran the whole lap with her, and that was nice. But and I think as I was getting delirious in the middle of the night and a little more open about just speaking to her, I said like something like you're a knockout or something like that. And yeah,
he's
and
making cat calls.
So bad. Oh no. And then at the end of the race, I did ask her for a number, and I think I put in my old school calendar where I put everything, and it looks like a mess. Like there's like 1,000 things written in every little like spot, and she kind of endeared me for that. I think you said you had like a calendar like that too, or something. I don't know if you're making that up on
it. I did. No, I wasn't making. I meant like paper. Like I was still, I'm a paper pencil calendar girl. So.
That racing, it is definitely a special race for us. It's nice that we have the opportunity to go back to that race every year now.
Yeah.
Well, guys tend to like fast women, and that means something totally different in the running world than it does in the rest of the world. And so, I just want to be clear on that. But I was just throwing that out there.
So Kelly, we'll kind of start with you first, and then we'll catch up with Harvey. But as
Sure.
we kind of talked about in your intro, you didn't start running until later in life. So what's your story? What got you
Right.
started?
I was a gymnast growing up. I started when I was 5. I think I left the gym when I was maybe 16. So for about 11 years, I competed. After I left the gym at 16, I did softball, I guess, maybe a little bit in like elementary school. But really nothing else. I was a gymnast, and I also kind of thought I was invincible and I could do anything because I was a gymnast. So once I got to be an adult and I worked at our YMCA, actually coaching gymnastics, we were having a 5K at our YMCA, and they were encouraging employees to run, and I thought, I'm sure that I can run 3 miles. So I started training, and that's the first time I had ever ran more than a mile ever. So I was 30 when I first went over that mile mark. And the first thing I did is I got on the treadmill, and I thought, I don't even know what a 5K time looks like. So I'm just going to get on the treadmill. And I was a gymnast, so, surely I can bust out 3 miles. It took me 45 minutes. I thought, oh my gosh, I have like my work cut out for me. So I just started, looked up like a 5K training program, just started doing the runs and doing the mileage. I remember the first time I ever ran 2 miles without stopping. I thought I was, an Olympic athlete. I felt amazing. It was amazing. I ran that first 5K. My time, I think, was 32, maybe 33 minutes. And I felt invincible. And all of a sudden, everything that I ever had as a gymnast came back to me. So it was like, as a gymnast, I competed as an individual, but I had the whole support of like my whole team. And when I started running 5Ks, it was like deja vu. I mean, all that came back. It was like, wow, this is an amazing sport. And because I always really liked the competitive part of gymnastics. And from there, I just kind of, took off and ventured into the longer distance. And now I never had an interest in a marathon. I ran some halves, and everybody kept saying, when are you going to run a marathon? And I said, 26 miles on pavement. Like, that sounds really boring. I don't think I'll ever do it. Then I started hearing more about ultras, and I'm like, whoa, 50 miles on trails? Now that sounds fun. So then I kind of thought I needed to start marathon training just to get, ready for ultras. So that's kind of how my running has evolved over the last 9 years.
Now Andy's just shaking his head at you, going, skip over the marathon. That doesn't sound like fun. Let's just go straight to the 50 mile.
I really like the marathon and the half marathon. I'm kind of the shorter distance person on the Heartland team. I keep signing up for these ultras, and it's just like, why do I do this? This is horrible. But I understand. It's a totally different world. It's a totally different animal. And if someone is built for that, then that's kind of their thing.
It is, even though I did get into the ultras, like I said, in the last, actually, it's kind of ironic. It was kind of once me and Harvey kind of met. I really haven't ran that many ultras. I still do the 24-hour race every year. It's kind of like, this will be my 5th year running it. But I've kind of went back to like that marathon distance. I just feel like I have, and even the half, I just feel like I have some, unfinished business with the half and the full marathon. So I'm kind of on a mission right now for that.
So did you start off, like when you were doing your build-up, did you train for a marathon in order to make the leap into the ultras, or did you do the ultras and then go back down?
No, I trained for a marathon in order to transition into the ultras.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, so I see that you raced the North Coast 24-hour race, and you mentioned that just a little bit earlier, 4 times. And so right now you're preparing for your 5th. What is it about the 24-hour race that you like? Because that's something that's so unfamiliar to me. I mean, I've done a 50K. And that's about as long as I've run, and it's such a different animal to go that long. What is it about that 24 hours that you like?
It's really as like cliche maybe as it sounds a little bit. It's a really, really spiritual type of experience. Getting to see the cycles of the sunrise and it moves in the sky, and you see all these different groups of people come in. So you see you see runners come out for their morning run, and you see people come for their afternoon picnic, and they come in and they leave, and then in the evening you see people even come with for an evening walk, and then they leave, and then the sun goes down and you see all the stars come out and all the lights go away. And then you're still out there, And then, the next day starts to come, and you start to slowly see that sky, brighten up, and you see the sun come up, and then you see those groups of, you might see another, individual person come out for their morning run on that very next day. And it's just a cycle of life. You kind of, I don't know, you just kind of really see things through a different perspective.
Kind of experiencing.
That's a fascinating point that you bring up too, because I really think that's true. You do see that to an extent when you're running a 100-mile trail race or more, but with the 24-hour race, because it's on a closed course that is generally a loop, and it's oftentimes a loop that doesn't have roots or rocks, it gives you more of an opportunity to get really also zone almost in a meditative state than you can when you're running on a trail. And in a trail, I always have to have a level of consciousness so that I can respond in a split second. But in the 24-hour race, I mean, there's really nothing you're going to necessarily trip over. So you could do the loop without even a light, and it's just really, and you're also doing the same exact ground, so you see the sun in that position.
Yeah, and that's kind of the interesting thing too, is you see stationary objects, okay? You might see a tree or, there's some workout stations around that area. You start to see these objects throughout the course of a whole 24 hours. And it's crazy as it seems, you just start to see them differently. And you can go a little deeper within yourself during a 24-hour race for those reasons that Harvey just said. You don't have the rocks and the roots or, a course to follow, or, you don't, so you get to tune out a little bit more than what you would with a 50K or a 50 miler or a 100 miler, on trails. And I really like that part of it.
I can really see that, just on a smaller level, that, whenever you're doing those long runs, and especially if you're not on the trail and you're out on the road or some place to where the ground's level and safe, that you get to that point to where you kind of just elevate away from your body, and you move somewhere else, and then you just put your body on autopilot, and then it's somewhat therapeutic, really, because when you can get to that place to where you don't have to pay attention to anything or yourself, and you're just kind of in that just mode in your mind to where I'm just moving, I'm just existing, and I can think about whatever I want to do. I can make this experience anything I want it to be, and so I can understand that on a smaller level. That I felt like I've been there before, maybe not quite at the level of hour 19 of 24. I don't know that experience, but I think I can get a little bit of an understanding of what you're talking about.
Yeah, definitely, because you still go through the same type of emotions in a 50K that you would for a 24-hour race. I know for the 24-hour race, you go through, periods where you're elated and you're so happy, you feel really good. And then, you go through periods where it's the worst you've ever felt and you're in your tears. Maybe not Harvey. I'm talking more about myself.
No, it's true. It's true.
I guess I have seen you. I
experienced that too.
Yeah. So you do. You get to go. You go through all these emotions, and it really breaks you down to a raw human being. And you really get the time to reflect upon, yourself. And it's good. It's good. I like it.
There's that feeling, I don't know if you guys ever experienced that, at the end of a race where you just feel entirely transparent and you just say what you think. You know, you're more likely to give someone a big giant hug or tell them you love them, you know. And that happens even more pronounced in a 24-hour race. You definitely peel back those layers. And you have some more time to reflect, like self-reflect. I mean, a lot of times I finish a 24-hour race, so I might be thinking a little bit deeper about pieces of life and what's important and those types of things, far more than like I would initiate with a 50K race or 50-mile race. So it's like it's got that spiritual element to it.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Although, you know, I do have to point out the irony, though, Kelly, that the idea when you first heard of a marathon of doing 26 miles on the pavement sounded horribly boring. And now you're in love with the 24-hour race where you're going around.
Right.
It's a paved 1 mile loop, is it not?
That's a good point.
Hey, and you know, that's why I tell everybody, never say never.
That's
like,
right.
I will never look at something and say, I will never do that. Because you just evolve and change so much as a person as you move through years and experience and history with people and groups. And, you know, and that's it's one of the things I try to teach, especially youth. It's like, don't ever say, I'm never doing that. Like, I coach cross country and, you know, I've had a couple of them say, I'm never running a marathon. And I'm like, no, just say you're not interested in it right now. You can change, and you may, and you probably will. So, yeah.
There you go. So you got that, Andy? So it's not that you'll never run 100 miles. You're just not interested in it at the moment.
Just
That's
right now,
right.
it's not. It's not.
That's right.
We'll wear them down.
Well, I have to ask this question, and this is really interesting to me, Kelly, because, you know, we're all busy people. And so what does it take for someone to, you know, balance their work life, being a mom, you know, how do you train for something like a 24-hour race or something like this and make it work and be successful at it? How do you do that?
Well, you know, my version of like success always changes with my circumstances. So, you know, this is my 5th year running North Coast. I've never hit 100 miles, although there's been years, you know, last year I hit 93. That was the best version of myself that I could give at North Coast that year. One year, I think I made 83 miles. That was the best version of myself that I could give then. So a lot of my training depends on my circumstances. I've entered into a time right now where I've got the time, I'm training, and I'm training like I've never trained before. So my version of my success for this year at North Coast will look differently than what it has for the years in the past. But it is a juggle. I have 3 amazing children that, you know, all run cross country as well. So they're all runners. I coach cross country. I work full time teaching, and then I also coach gymnastics, and then, you know, cross. So balancing all of that, it gets tricky sometimes. And sometimes it means getting, you know, 2 miles in the morning and then 3 miles in with the cross country kids. And then when I get home doing another, you know, 2 miles, you know, my 7-mile runs might look more like that than like getting out there and getting a solid 7 in. So it's tricky. I think I juggle it pretty well, but sometimes I feel like my life juggles me also. But I just have learned to adapt my training to what my life at the time is allowing me to do.
That's smart. I'm curious.
And it's really impressive this last year. I mean, with the 93, that was a PR. And it was a really challenging year because Kelly was working basically full-time in the school as aide in a special ed classroom, and she was working cross-country and gymnastics in the evening, cross-country every day, gymnastics a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and going back to school with full-time classes and with the 3 kids, you know, so it's like, that was really crazy. So she really actually didn't get to run as many miles last year before that race, but she still pulled off running her best race, which was really surprising for her. I know she was not anticipating like having that type of experience with the little miles that she got compared to the previous years.
You know, sometimes I find with myself that, when life is its most stressful and I'm being pulled in so many directions, whenever I do get that opportunity to get out and get my miles in and get my training, I tend to perform really well because I know I'm making the most of that time. There's no junk miles. Everything's important. It's also important to me. It's kind of like that release of my soul that I can get out and do something that I love whenever I'm being pulled in so many other directions. So I totally get that.
And I'm just curious, when you're training for this, do you allow Harvey to coach you?
No. She let me do that for a little while, and then she booted me. She got rid of the coach.
I did. I had some why don't you coach me? These are my goals. Why don't you coach me? I think I let him do it for about 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks. And then I said,
I think it was more like 4 months.
No, it wasn't.
The problem was that if she said, I think I can only run 20 miles this week, but I had told her to run 30 or 5 or whatever, then I was just like, okay, honey, I understand. So I didn't give her strong enough accountability. Too easy on her. And but see, we both coach. We both coach runners. The way me and Harvey both coach our runners, it's different. We coach differently. And so I guess I kind of was looking maybe for a coach that was more like myself. And that's not Harvey. So we tried it, but it would go both ways. If I were to try to coach him at something, it just wouldn't work out too well. But we definitely respect each other's differences, and we have different styles. He did try really hard with me, but he's right. He said, "Oh, you need to run 8 miles today." I'd call him that evening and say, "I only got 4 in." He'd say, "Oh, honey, it's okay. You were really busy today." Where I needed somebody to say, if you want to succeed at this goal, you're going to have to get these miles in. That's the kind of coach I need. Not somebody that's going to say, "Oh, that's all right."
Oh, yeah, it's hard. It's always that fine line.
It's really hard to coach your partner.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess that works for some people, but I think it's that might be kind of hard. But we do we actually run a lot together. We get
do run a lot together.
So that's something that works really well, and it's and I think actually we may not tell each other what to run, but we always are have a little element of that in the sense of being each other's number one cheerleader, and also giving positive feedback to each other for what we do or what we are doing. So,
absolutely.
There's elements of coaching that we're always doing for each other.
Right.
In the Badwater race this year, Kelly was on my crew, and she was instrumental, in helping me to make my surge at the last half of the race, and helping me to catch the next person or the next person after that. So she was a coach then. Yeah. So we do actually informally coach each other all the time.
We do.
But in a formal sense, we both we coach our own selves. We don't have anyone else coaching us. But it's nice to have that element of being able to run with your partner when you have that chance. And it doesn't have to be a serious type of run, but just going out and doing some casual running and stuff.
Oh yeah, I agree. I want to go back to something because you had talked about Badwater, and I don't want to get too far into your story yet because it's pretty exciting. But I wanted to talk to Kelly for a second because you've been to Badwater with Harvey before, but this is the first time instead of being a spectator that you've actually crewed. And what was that experience like, and how was it different from just being there, watching it?
It was very different, obviously. The difference was after the race, when we all got back to the hotel, I went to my bed and slept, and Harvey had to fend for himself. You know, in the past, I'm at the finish line. I'm waiting with like blankets and clothes and some food and beverages, and I help him in the van. And we get to the hotel, and I help him in, and I help him get in the shower, and not this
And this
year,
time I fall in the shower.
And then he fell in the shower.
Oh my
And
God.
he thought he hit his head. It was, but no. So it's definitely very different. If I had to prefer one way or the other, I really like being at the finish line and waiting for him to finish. It's tough out there. It's tough. You know, I've crewed for him before at other races, and you know, Badwater in itself, just the elements with, you know, the lack of sleep and the heat, and then your own nutrition when you're out there on the road like that. You know, you don't want to eat anything because what if he needs it? You know, you're conservative on drinks. What if he needs it? So, you know, you also have to, you know, really take your own health into consideration when you're out there. And it was rough. It was, I'm not going to lie, but it was an amazing adventure to be a part of.
I could see where it'd be really hard to, you know, someone that you care about to, you know, watch them essentially suffering because, you know,
right.
That's what's going on. And,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes, you know, there needs to be some toughness if you're going to help that person to, you know, complete their goal whenever they're kind of at a low
Mm-hmm.
point. And that's something that I could see that it would be difficult to, you know, be that person whenever
Right.
you just want to say, just quit and let's just stop this. So, you know, I can understand
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Kelly does real well in that category. She doesn't have any problem telling me to do the 40 miles at the way.
That's good.
Yeah.
You know, she's like, get up there and get that guy. Go. So,
Yeah, I'm
she
actually
does a
really
really
good
good
when it
job
comes
at
to that. Yeah, I do a really good job. I can totally, and I don't know, I think it may come from coaching cross country. Like, you know, we've got 65 kids on our team, and I don't have a problem telling them, like, suck it up, let's go. Like, come on. So I think I'm just kind of conditioned to react in that way. So if he's having a rough time, it's just kind of like, okay, you're hot. I understand. You made the choice to be out here. Like, let's go. Get hydrated. Get your shoes changed. Come on, let's go. So I don't really have.
she's not that rough.
I don't struggle too bad in that sense, but it is tough when you have to watch a loved one. My parents don't like to come watch me. They don't like to watch me run because they just want to tell me to quit. Oh, Kelly, just stop. It's okay.
Oh.
So it is tough when your loved ones are. It's hard for me to watch my kids. I'm going to watch my daughter run her first cross country meet this Saturday, and it's hard to watch your kids in that much pain when they're out there because you know what it feels like. You know what they're going through.
So I'm curious. You talked about, you know, the elements of Badwater and how tough it is. Did you do anything to train to be a crew?
I trained for Badwater like I would train for a marathon. So, you know, I was getting my miles in. You know, I wanted to make sure that, you know, I was not a liability out there on the course. I also wanted to make sure that his other crew members, you know, weren't put in a situation that I was not able to help with. So, yeah, I did train. Probably not as much heat training as like what Harvey does. I probably should have. But, but with running, it was just more like marathon training.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm looking for some advice, too, because in April, I'm going to be crewing for the first time, and it's actually going to be out at the Badwater Salton Sea race.
Yeah.
So I have a team of 3 that has asked me to crew for them, and it'll be my first time, and so I'm really clueless. So what can you kind of words of wisdom do you have for me?
Well, you know what happens is you eventually fall into a rhythm. And Salton Sea, remind me again, how many miles is that?
That is, I believe is it 87, I believe?
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, it was the one that was like close to 90.
Yeah.
You will fall into a rhythm. And, you know, when we first started out, I felt like this is total chaos. And I can't do this for 24 hours or however long it takes. But once you get into a groove...
I'm glad you didn't quit, honey.
Oh, yeah. Once you get into a groove, it just starts to flow. And, going into it, obviously, you need to make sure you're mentally and physically prepared and you taking care of your hydration and your nutrition. And if I could do things differently, that's the one thing that I would do differently, is I would be more prepared to take care of myself. So, I was prepared to take care of Harvey, but I didn't think ahead about, well, what am I going to eat? And, what am I going to drink? I would have planned that a little bit better, and I think it would have actually made a pretty big difference in how I felt during crewing.
That's great advice. Yeah, I think that's something I may not necessarily thought of. You're so focused on taking care of others, but that's, the point of you really need to look after yourself first.
Hey, well, you know what? I think this has been, we could probably end this episode right now with Kelly because she's been so fun to talk to. But since we've got Harvey here, then we might as well go ahead and, let him talk and kind of tell his story. But anyway, well, Harvey, let's talk about Belfast and then the 24-hour championships. So what happened, with the timing and the results there? We're all kind of curious about that.
Yeah, well, the people of Belfast were incredible, and the crowd was incredible. The athletes were wonderful, and those athletes were there participating. And so I don't want to detract from the overall experience of Belfast by this one event, because I think it could go really quickly to make it seem like the whole thing was just terrible or they did a poor job of planning. And overall, the whole group did a very good job of planning, except for the timing. The timing was terrible because in the middle of the night, basically it just stopped updating. And then we went through basically a period where we had no idea of all the way through the finish of the race where we were in standings. So that was really difficult to run a race like a 24-hour race, especially because with the 24-hour race, so much of it involves pacing yourself properly. And it's like there's an element of psychology that's very big to ultras, of course. And it's really big in the 24-hour race to have a understanding of where you are, and also to get a positive reinforcement for each lap. It's almost like it's like receiving some carrot. You see on the thing, the screen that you have reached another mile, and then you see another 5 miles, another 10 miles, and you reach these pinnacle points where you're at 120 miles, and then you're at 135 miles. And each of those, it gives you a little positive celebration. And when you're at a situation where you have no idea exactly, you have a rough estimate, but when you don't get that, oh, hey, here I am, I'm at 140 miles now, it makes it a little bit more difficult to run big miles. I mean, but you can still, everyone had to experience the same thing, but that was definitely a challenge. And then when we finished the race, we were told, and for the whole thing, that we actually won the bronze for the men, and the women won the gold. And then just a matter of 3 weeks ago or some weeks ago, they said the International Ultra Running Association came back and said that, oh, well, actually, there's been a reprocessing of data, and it looks like some additional laps are being counted, and the American women are now the silver medalists, and the American men are now fourth place. And then to make the whole controversy come to a whole nother roundabout, yesterday they announced that we are, in fact, that's not going to be the case. They've reversed themselves again, and the American men are now the bronze, and the American women are the gold. So in this situation, you kind of feel bad for, I don't know. I feel too bad about it, but you feel bad for the team that thought they went from fourth to third and second to first, and it's just a mess, So especially in a world class event, you would never expect that to happen, and you wouldn't expect that to happen at the local 50K. So to have that happen, in this event at the world stage, it was unfortunate that it happened. And, we're looking forward to 2019 in Austria. And, the Austrians have a very strong reputation for good timekeeping. So we anticipate it is never going to happen again. But, that's how it is. My friend Tracy Outlaw and I, we call this the Yeti. The Yeti sometimes comes and creates, some sort of challenge. In Badwater, we had the craziest situation. Before the race, we stayed on the other side of the park in Lone Pine to have a more affordable hotel. And it's really a beautiful place to stay, and it works out well because you finish your race there. And the day of, there was some rains, but nothing. We had never really seen anything to give us any type of concern. But sure enough, we left with lots of time before the race, and we were on our way to the race and gave ourselves several extra hours. And sure enough, the only road that connects from Lone Pine in a reasonable time, without taking 5 hours to loop around the far ends of the park, happened to be closed due to basically there was freak water that had come in and taken out the road. So flash floods. And so, it looked like for a minute it was kind of dicey and touch and go whether or not we were even going to make it to the start line at first. But, we just had to roll with it. And, fortunately it all worked out. But, sometimes sometimes it seems that things happen in ultras. Sometimes it's something smaller. You get a major blister or, but other times you have the timing go out and you just have to roll with it as part of the adventure.
Yeah. Control what you can and manage what you cannot.
Yes.
During that time that the timing was down, were you getting any verbal cues on, where you were at, or were you just kind of flying under the radar?
One of the big things I pressed about the 24-hour team this year, and I asked Howard, our coach, to bring a person that was qualified and had the ability to give us feedback on our time as a team. And so we had a really excellent guy who was all of that, who came across from the U.S. to be a part of the group. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to give us any feedback either because he wasn't getting any data from the essential race officials. So that we were getting a rough estimate. It wasn't I had a general idea it would take a couple miles, but it just makes it for me personally, I'd like to run a race. I like to see where I am at the race, and I like to see each time I come around, it just gives me a positive reinforcement of oh, there's another mile, there I am. I just like to visually see it. And, that's pretty much the experience with that.
You talk about that, and I just envision Luke Skywalker turning off his targeting computer and trying to destroy the Death Star, with no guidance whatsoever. And so whoever has the Force the most is the one that's going to do the best.
Yes, yeah, and the Japanese did incredible. They have really been the men I'm referring to. They were very dominant in the sport going back more than 6 or 7 years ago in the 24-hour race. And this year, it was really amazing. They only brought 3 athletes, and you could have 6 athletes. And they managed to win the entire men's race with 3 athletes, which is incredible because that means basically every single person has to have a phenomenal day, and there's zero room for even having a rough stretch of an hour and a half. They did phenomenal, and they ran that race, and they weren't perplexed by the time at all. So it's we live and learn, and we have to evolve and adapt and grow, and that's something that I think that I could improve on. And sometimes I do like to run races, and I'll just take my watches off, and I'll just run as well as I can. And with that race, I think I definitely that wasn't. To me, that was only 1% of the story overall, of why I performed the way I did. The way I performed, I didn't run as well as I wanted to, And my biggest mistake going into that race was not getting enough sleep 2 weeks out, like from the last, not the last week, but the week before the last week. I was on holiday and taking guests to Portugal, and we had a phenomenal trip, but I was pushing, burning the wick at both ends and only sleeping about 6 hours a day just because we were like doing all these things. And then I'd be posting pictures on Facebook of our adventure. And yeah, I should have gotten a better night's sleep. And so I had like beat myself down a little extra that week before the last week.
All right. Well, I've got one last question here, and then I'm going to let Crystal kind of take over for the rest. But the Badwater 135, which is just absolutely absurd to a person like me, but I know that you guys dig that stuff, and that's awesome. And that was 8 days after, and so you had a really dramatic race. And can you talk about how you were able to go from kind of that survival mode to a third place finish? It's just amazing.
Thanks, Andy, for the accolades. And honestly, having Kelly there and my team was a big reason why. They were really amazing. The team is more of an element in Badwater for an ultra than most other ultras. Like the team element is really, really consequential. It's very important. And so having their positive energy and just having a strong team of people that are experienced and they know how to ignite me, that was a big piece of it. The other thing is I had two really amazing people working on me between the two races that do structural work on your body. And one was Andy Shutterly. I call him Mr. Miyagi. He's an ART, active release therapy specialist. And the other one is my friend Ian Hughes, and he's finishing massage school this fall. And those guys did some phenomenal work. And then I always go back to like being vegetarian and vegan, that I consume a lot of anti-inflammatory foods, and I feel like just that it's a really potent combination with nutrition I find like that I rebound quickly. And I think I'm not the only one that experiences that. Like Michael Wardian, he and I have talked, and he's vegan, and a guy won the around the world marathon competition and beating Ryan Hall, and he runs like a marathon fast each day. I mean, he just did a phenomenal event this weekend where he ran the Leadville 100, and then he followed it by running the Pikes Peak Marathon, and he beat Marshall Ulrich's time from 1992. So, that to me is a big element. And then just, maybe that little special, whatever that is, that sometimes runners get. And I somehow got like a special magical energy when I was running that race. And about mile 75 into it, there was a F-16 fighter jet that just blazed over us coming up into the second mountain. And it was just absolutely energizing and exhilarating. And at that point, I was having a rough time even running down the mountain and running on the flat part. But I said after that, I said, the hell with it. And I said, we are going to go now. And that was it. And from that point, we ran up the mountain and we just never really stopped. And it was so exhilarating because going into that race, I told Kelly, honestly, like, I don't know, we could finish first maybe, but we could also maybe finish last. And I really don't know which way it's going to go. I was being honest. Like, I really didn't know. I knew I want to get across that finish line if I had to crawl, but I didn't know if it was going to be first or if it was going to be last. And so about midway through that race, I was somewhere around like 10th. And I was running with another guy from Cincinnati who he has come out to Portugal and run with Carlos and I in Portugal. So that was really special that we were able to run 20 miles together. And I was really tired during the whole race. After, I'd say mile like 10 or 13, I was tired. It was rough. I was feeling rough at mile 30. And I went by Keith Shaw, who, everyone knows him as he's got the pink tutu, and he said some positive words to me around that point. I was just feeling so rough. I mean, my IT band was tightened up because of the curvature on the road from both the 24-hour race and the Badwater race. And I've never experienced that. And I had to stretch like basically every couple of miles just to feel like I could move my body properly. But it was an experience, all right.
That's awesome. How far, what was the furthest you were back? You were in place-wise.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe Kelly, what do you think?
I don't really know. I think maybe, I want to say like 15th or 16th.
Yeah, that's probably right. Like maybe around mile 42, maybe around that 30 to 42 mile range. I was probably somewhere like that. Yeah, and I was just, at that point, I was feeling so rough. I was feeling rough at mile 17. I like sat down and stretched on the ground. And I was thinking at that point, I'm like thinking, geez, this is going to be a long race. And I was thinking, I don't know. I'm just thinking through my head how I'm going to finish this race. I'm not thinking I'm going to finish at third, at all. I was starting to get a little concerned at mile 13 when he started talking about his IT band bothering him. And that's when I thought, all right, this is going to be a long race.
Yeah, when you start having those thoughts at mile 13 and you have, 87 more to go.
That's a problem in a marathon.
Actually, more than that. I had 120 miles.
Oh, yeah, that's right, 135. Miles, yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Math's not my strong suit, can you tell?
Oh, no worries. But it was a lot, I remember, because it was a long ways to go. So that kind of like was for a message to everyone that listens. That kind of goes into, don't stop. Like, I mean, unless if you have an injury, like a structural injury with the bone or like some tear, then that's different. But you never know how your body, how you might respond if you hang in there. And a lot of elite athletes, that's one like pet peeve I have with some elite athletes, that if they're not going to finish in the top three, then they'll just pull out of the race. And like, that's one thing that kind of drives me nuts with some folks, that are elite athletes, because they won't hang in there, even if, who cares if you don't finish in the top, like half of the group or whatever, just run the race if you're feeling all right. That's just my perspective on it, unless you have an injury. But because you may never know what you might be able to do if you hang in there. Sometimes you come back and you feel like that's the most exciting race. That's probably, next to winning the Badwater race, that's probably one of my favorite races I've ever run, just because of how bad I felt, and I was still able to pull off third. It makes me it was just so exciting. So exciting.
That's a great story. I see we're starting to get a little long on time, but before we go, I wanted to, you talked about Portugal. And so I know that's through Run Quest Travel, and next year coming up is the 5th anniversary for that trip. And it's been announced for next year. Now, are there still spots available? I know it was filling up.
Yes, it's getting very full. Like we have about 3 spots to go. That's it. So if anyone is interested, they should probably sign up as soon as possible. But it's August 4th through the 11th, and you can find out more at runquesttravel.com. And Kelly and I, we're really excited. She's planning to come this year as well, and we're staying at some of the same spots we stayed last year, but tweaking things every year. One of the places we stayed this year is this amazing 12th century monastery. It's probably my favorite hotel I've ever stayed in my life. It's absolutely stunning. But it's a great adventure, and I definitely encourage people, you don't have to be a crazy ultra runner. You can be a hiker even. So we encourage everyone of all different backgrounds to run. I know some people might feel intimidated, like, oh, I don't know what Harvey's going to do with me out there. But we've had guests from their late 70s on down. This next year we were going to have a lady's bringing her daughter who's 17. So we've had range of ages, and it's just a really neat experience.
It was beautiful. I was following the adventures through Facebook and Instagram and stuff, and the pictures were just stunning. So I'll make sure in the show notes we include the website for Run Quest Travel and link up also your Facebook, because if people can go back and look at some of those pictures, plus, see your current adventures.
Yeah. Portugal is it's just a really special place. I've traveled to a lot of different countries, and it's definitely in my top few favorites in the world. It's just an amazing place.
Yeah, it looks stunning. Well,
thank you so much for having us on this evening.
Yeah, do you guys have any final thoughts?
Much.
Well, Kelly, how about it? Anything?
That's a lot of pressure.
Getting out there and staying active.
I know. Stay active. That's it. It is so true. Definitely.
Yeah.
Stay active and eat your greens.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Okay, Kelly, if you would like for anyone to reach you on social, what's a good place to find you at?
You can find me on Facebook. Typically, if you can track Harvey down on Facebook, I'm not too far to find from him. But yeah, I'm on there on Facebook, Kelly Odell. I think Instagram is, I'm not even sure. I think it's Kelly O'Rock. So, either Facebook or Instagram, you can find me on both.
Yeah, and I'm really excited. Kelly, she has been training. She's gotten through probably her most serious training over the last couple months, and she is going for her first 100 miles in the 24-hour race. It's coming up in like 3.5 weeks here at North Coast 24. It's a national championship, and I think it's going to be really exciting to follow her in that venture of striving to get above 100 miles.
Well, good luck, Kelly. We wish you the best.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hey, Harvey, how about your social?
The best way to follow me is on Facebook. I have an athlete page. It's Harvey Lewis Ultra Runner. And right now we're actually in the midst of a run streak that I challenge people to. And let's see, we have a lot of people all over. One time we did a check, and we had people from about more than half the states, and I think quite a few different countries out there. So I'm excited to see how it all pans out and how many people make it to the 31st.
All right. Well, that is very excellent. Harvey, thank you very much for coming back on the show. We really appreciate it. Kelly, we really loved hearing your story. We appreciate you coming on. And then definitely good luck in 3 weeks on that 100 miles. We know you can absolutely do it. And we're going to be rooting for you from all corners of the Heartland. And speaking of the Heartland, if you want to come and say hello to me, Andy, at the Chicago Marathon, you can hook up with me on the Facebook page, and we can meet. And then also, Crystal and Steven, they're going to be running the Ragnar 200-mile Bourbon Chase, and they're going to be on Team Sword. And so if you're going to be in the area there and want to come see them, maybe crew for them, and then throw them some cookies while they're running past, then, definitely do that. I'd like to give a shout out to the Ozark Mountain Daredevils for their use of the music for the show. And then make sure that you visit www.heartlandrunning.com if you want some more information on the show. And that's where the show notes are going to be too. Make sure you join our Facebook group, which we're going to be closing soon. And the only way to get into it after we close is
if someone dies.
That's the only way. If you want to call our voicemail, it's at area code 417-319-1060. We'd like to hear what you got going on in your mind. If you've got some trail reviews or some gear reviews, or you just want to chat about the show, we'd be more than happy to put you on if we like what you have to say. Make sure you go out and tell a friend. Go to iTunes or whatever your podcast catcher is that you're getting your podcast from. Leave a review because that helps other people find the show. So anyway, I'd like to thank you for sticking us in your ear. And I am Andy.
And I'm Crystal.
And we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.